Hello everyone. Today's poem is Xiaoya,庭燎, a Xiaoya poem from the Book of Songs. This poem is quite famous for the atmosphere it described and one word it created, 夜未央. So this word became much more famous since the Han dynasty because one of the very key palace was named after this word, Weiyang. And if you have a chance to visit Xi'an city today, you will find one of the district name was after this name, Weiyang district. Normally, this poem was taken as very simple and straightforward. It describes three senses that during the royal court, before the royal court, and when the officers of the central government, they attend to the royal court, which is the routine for them, at which place they hold meetings discussing the state affairs with the king, with the emperor. So in this poem, it's with the king of the Zhou dynasty. And so it just reflects a very positive and happy atmosphere. But even with such happy atmosphere, some scholars in the past explained this poem as a blaming poem because in the real situation, this poem it sounds like all the officers has been around in the royal court and waiting for the kings to show up, and the king was supposed to be at the court already, so which is a blaming to the king of Zhou. He's too late, and he don't care too much about the states, about the country, about the people. So you can see how complicated to decipher or explain the poems in the Book of Songs. But according to the modern archaeology and history, the title 庭燎 means a lot. 庭燎 means bonfire in the royal yard. The bonfire in English means the bones was put on the fire to burn the bones. It's a very traditional Celtic tradition. And actually, in this poem, this term shares a very similar meanings with the Celtic tradition. And from the modern history and archaeologies, it only means to burn the bones of the enemies and the offerings including the cows, the sheep, the pigs, the dogs, for the god, for the ancestors, which means they have a big fire in the royal yard, basically in the court of their ancestors' temples, and they burn the enemies, burn the offerings of the cows, sheep on that big fire as a sacrifice or as an offering to the God in the heaven above, to their ancestors who they believe are with the God in the heavens. With this big fire and all the offerings, the human offerings and the animal offerings burning, the smokes, the smells, everything goes up to the heavens, which the Zhou people believe in this way their offering finally would reach to the heaven, to the God, and reach to their ancestors as well. So basically that's the how this sacrifice or this ceremony was come from. Here I quote some words from one bronze vessel which was used by the noble people of the Zhou dynasty, and on those vessels they carved words, sentences, article to record their feats of their ancestors or themselves. These words recorded the grand ceremony holds for several days to celebrate the victory over the enemy in the west, and you can see the words 辽于周庙. So they have this bonfire in the Zhou's ancestors' temple. So that's a big ceremony. Okay, let's go through this simple poem first. A very typical 3 paragraphs poem. 夜如何其，夜未央，庭燎之光. So how is the night? How is the time? The night doesn't past the midnight, so it's still not get to the midnight yet, before the midnight yet. And the light of that bonfire shines. 夜如何其, basically the sequence was a little bit reversed. It should be 夜如其何. So what does it look like this night? And 夜未央, the night, still wait, not yet. Yang means middle, so which means the whole night was divided into several parts. The night doesn't past the middle of it, so it means it's still before the midnight. 庭燎之光, we have explained 庭燎, the bonfire in the yard, in the Zhou ancestors' yard, because the liao, as far as we can see in the history record or from the archaeology evidence, it was always happened in the ancestors' temples. So that's could be the most highest level of celebration for the Zhou people, and it from the verse I quoted before, it lasts for several days, not just for one day, and that also explains the following things. Let's continue. 君子至止，鸾声哕哕. The Lord is coming or come to this place. The bell on the chariot make the sound of qiang qiang. So qiang qiang is a quite popular sound simulation words in the Book of Songs. Luan is the bell on the chariot. You can see this real bell from the archaeology. The first paragraph is quite simple, but the writing is quite genius. It consists of 2 parts, a question and answer, and followed with the description of the real site, of the real sense, focused on the chariot and the sound of that bells. And the question answer actually brings the reader to the real side. Just imagine, it just look like you're hearing something is whispering near you. How is it going on this night? How is it about tonight? Another guy not far from. Oh, it's still not get to the midnight yet, but the bonfire is there. It's shining. And then, as far as you are among those people already on site, you just hear the bells of the chariot still coming from far away, or some maybe quite near. The bell rings, and you even saw some lords walking into this yard, and some lords is on their chariot, is quite near because the rings, the bells, it sounds chang chang, and far away there might some of the bell rings, but it's not very clear already. So it's quite vivid and lively descriptions and genius writings. Here is the main question for the traditional explanation for this poem. So the time in the first paragraph is something before the midnight. If it's a royal meetup, it's a routine office time, how could they get up so early before the midnight? Someone is already on site, and a lot of the law's high-ranking officers are on their way to this court, to this yard. How that could be? So from the history book, and even in the Qing dynasty, it still followed the traditions since the time of Zhou dynasty. We know it's quite clear. Normally, they could get up as early as 4 o'clock in the morning, or normally 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, and then they get to the royal court to attend the meeting to discuss the state's affairs with the emperors. So never could be earlier before 4 a.m. in the morning. And in the first paragraph, it's sometime before the midnight. How could they explain that? Okay, let's continue the second paragraph. 夜如何其，夜未艾，庭燎晣晣. How is the night? The night is still not over. And the bonfire in the yard is shining. So it's quite similar with the first paragraph, but the time is changed. It's just before the daybreak, almost at the end of that night. 君子至止，鸾声哕哕. The noise is coming endlessly, and the bells on the chariot is making sound endlessly. So from the first paragraph and second paragraph, when we can feel the how grand this ceremony is, the people is coming to the site endlessly. It lasts for hours, and people, the lords, is still coming in to this royal court, to the ancestors' temple's court yard. Okay, the third paragraph. 夜如何其，夜相陈，庭燎有辉. How is the night going on? The night is reaching the dawn time. It's almost early morning in the suburb. And the bonfire is shining. So here is the characters of the Chinese poem 夜相陈. So it doesn't make a real logic sentence with grammar, but you just put the words there, and as far as we have a content, we can guess out what this mix up of words means. There's no grammar in this sentence. 夜 means the night. So because the question is about the night, previous this sentence, so we know it's about the night. Xi'an means the suburb. So we know the ancestors' temples was always in the suburb. Another term is 郊庙. 郊庙 was always refers to the ancestral temples. In the previous I quoted 州庙, so they are the same thing. 州庙, 郊庙, and the xiang is equivalent with the jiao as well. So this also double confirmed this is something very, very important in the ancestors' temple. Chen means the dawn time, the early morning. So this is not a sentence with the grammar, but from the three distinguished or standalone characters, we still can interpret this sentence. I shouldn't call this sentence, but I should say I have no other words. We can still explain this sentence, 夜相乘, that night has already reached the dawn time at this suburb place. 庭燎有辉, the bonfire is shining. Okay, the last pair of sentences. 君子至止, 言观其旂. The law is still coming. So many laws was attending this grand ceremony. Let's look at those flags of them and try to figure out who are they. 言观其旂, qi is flag with the logo of the family, with the coat of arms. So 言观其旂basically means two things. Let's look at those flags they carry with those laws and try to figure out who they are. Okay, we have finished this simple poem. 3 paragraphs. The first paragraph is about something before the midnight, and then it's before the dawn time, and then it's the early morning's time. And it describes such a grand ceremony that the attendees, they are coming all the way from before the midnight and until the early morning. They're still coming to attend this grand ceremony. And so that's basically what I think this poem is about. And this poem, the writing of it is so genius. It describes something like two persons is talking each other on site. But finally, when we go through all the poems, it's just like someone is telling his own stories that he has attended this grand ceremony, but his families or the people under him, they don't have the chance. So he was so proud of that. When he came back, returned to his home, he was sitting with all his buddies and he's trying to tell the grand ceremony how magnificent, how proud he was during this ceremony. Okay, that's for today. And remember the famous word, Weiyang, which also is sort of the symbolic words or sentence for the Han Dynasty. It comes from this poem. Bye-bye for today.